In the late 1960s, the ACLU of Maryland challenged the state's use of 19th century laws against Baltimore prostitutes. But one of the lawyers involved wasn't really interested in defending the prostitutes.
After we had won the case and gone to the Supreme Court, he said he wanted to file an amicus brief. And I said, go ahead. So he asked me to send him the papers so that he could say something that we hadn't said. And after he studied all the papers, he asked me for the names, and in the papers their names were Jane Doe. And they were the prostitutes who had been arrested. And he asked me for their real names and said he wanted to interview them. I said that was okay. But he didn't want to interview them, he wanted to have sex with them. And pretty soon I was getting complaints about this guy who was insisting on having sex with him, and I got into a big fight with him, which I discovered what a horrible creep he was. I got a judge to talk with him and say he wasn't allowed to do that, but he went right on doing it. And the prostitutes went right on calling me. And I got to know Chuck Morgan pretty well, and he was a disgraceful figure. And finally, I said to him, you just can't do this. He said, I've got a much better idea. He said, don't you think it would be fun if I got another wonderful person just like you, and the three of us could have sex together? What do you think of that? I said, I may vomit. So that sort of made him decide not to pursue that.
I thought that you and he were big friends.
No, we weren't good friends. I hated him, and he was not happy with me because every time I saw him, I said something equally welcome to I may vomit to him. But on the outside, of course, we were friends. I wasn't about to tell a newspaper person that my colleague was a prevert, as we pronounce it in Georgia. I don't know why I got on him. I don't want to think about him. What an asshole.
But he was in Atlanta, right?
What?
He was in Atlanta.
Yeah. And then, long after he had left Atlanta and he went to work for the National ACLU, and they found him a very difficult person because he was underneath quite a racist, for one thing. And for another thing, everything that he did, he wanted to do that was bad. Like, I had these prostitutes. He wanted to get on the case because he wanted to sleep with the prostitutes. He was disgusting.
How did you get the prostitutes case?
Well, they were arrested after this law was revived, and the very next moment after they made bail, one of them, the most intelligent one, called me and said, can you help us? And I said, we sure can, and we did. And as I say, the case went up to the Supreme Court, and they told me in the lower courts that they were going to defend the law, which was clearly unconstitutional, because they wanted it to go to the Supreme Court too. And it went to the Supreme Court, and they considered it for half an hour, I think, and that was it. And they ruled the law unconstitutional, and it got a lot of publicity, and all of a sudden I had a lot of friends who were prostitutes. And they were calling me. They didn't want legal help. They just wanted to talk with me. And I remember Peggy saying to me, how old would she have been? This was in the... When was she born?
1953.
1953. She was a teenager, so it would have been 1970, I guess.
But in 1970, we were living in Baltimore and Washington.
Oh, no, it was still...
But you were defending prostitutes in Baltimore. There was this woman named Rita. Do you remember anything about Rita?
I remember Rita, especially in connection with Peggy, who told me she was very upset that we were defending prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we're not defending prostitutes. We are, but what we are attacking and what we are for and what we're against has nothing to do with the individual. It has to do with attacking the law. She was too young to understand it, even to disagree with it. She didn't know what I was talking about. But she was very upset about that because Rita came to the house and to see me at my request. Mm-hmm. I think I was sick. I had something the matter with my leg. I forget what, but I couldn't go to the office. Mm-hmm. So she came to the house and she sat down and talked to me, and I got her a cup of coffee and we talked. She was not a bad person. She was a good person who kept on saying she didn't want to be a prostitute, but she didn't know anything else. I said, what would you like to be? So she said, I'd like to be an actress. And when I was young, I studied that, and I couldn't make a living at it. So I became a prostitute, but it's not a very good way to earn a living. So I said, well, I know a lot of people. Yes, it was in Baltimore. I know a lot of people who are on the stage in Baltimore, and I'll ask them if they can give you a part in a play, which won't be a leading part, but will give you some experience so that you can find out whether you can act. Mm-hmm. Well, she was tremendously grateful, she said, and I arranged for her to have an interview with some woman and who I knew, who was very nice. And she went and interviewed her, and the woman said she would give her a job with 1 or 2 speaking lines. And she was just thrilled, but she never showed up for the rehearsal.
Oh.
So I called up and I said, I used up some goodwill with this person, and I'm really disappointed, and I want you to call her and tell her, ask for another chance, say you were sick or something. That doesn't mean you have to become an actress, but it would clear me with her if you showed up and took a walk-on part. So she did, but and she saw it through the production of the play, but she realized that she didn't have the ability to be an actress. So she went back to prostitution, and evidently something she was good at.
How old was she?
Well into her 30s, maybe older.